Welcome to Let's Talk Migraine, where we talk about some of the hottest topics faced by people who live with migraine, a disabling and complex neurological disorder that affects nearly 40 million people in the US alone and 1 billion globally. Today, we're going to be talking about how migraine doesn't just affect the person who lives with the disease, it impacts every relationship also. This is such a hot topic, and I know that everyone here today is passionate about it. So let's just jump right in. Angel, would you mind sharing some of the ways that your family relationships have been impacted by migraine?
Thank you. Yes. Not only myself, but my 21-year-old son, as well as my 13-year-old son, all three of us have been diagnosed with chronic migraine, which means the only person in my house who does not is my husband, which also means he has to carry the weight for all of us in different capacities. And I can say that I'm extremely fortunate that he is a passionate caregiver, an advocate when he needs to be, when we've had to go to the hospital. That has been a strong source of support for all three of us.
I've got we're a blended family. We've got six kids at home, so it gets kind of loud. And my family has learned to just not be loud on the days that I'm down with a migraine attack. My kids will come in to check on me and bring me, they'll check on me to see what I need, ice pack or something to drink, just anything. And they're always really careful to not do something that they know might intensify the migraine attack. So, what about you, Eric?
I've lived with migraine since before my kids were born, and so all three of us live with migraine. My son is 20 and my daughter is 21, so they're both in college navigating migraine and school. And my husband has to navigate all three of us. My daughter lives away from home and my son lives with us. We struggle with trying to find, information for them. But luckily, with having migraine myself and being involved, it's been a little easier for them, but not easy to live with it. Um, but it's tough.
Yeah, it really is tough. I know that for myself, it's definitely affected my family relationships. It put a tremendous strain on my first marriage, especially when we were raising children. It's very hard. The reality is that if you're down with a migraine, your spouse has to take care of your children if you have young kids, and they have to they have to take the children to their activities or take them to doctor's appointments. They have to take care of them, and so it can be really difficult. And then of course the guilt that we feel about not being available for our children. For me, I also two out of my three sons have been diagnosed with migraine at a very young age. My third one, I believe, probably also has migraine to a lesser degree. And it's heartbreaking to see them struggle. And I think when, like you all say, when you have kids with migraine too, the strain on your family is huge. If you only have one healthy person, that can be really hard to manage. Having a supportive family is so important. I know, Angel, you have an incredibly supportive family, but your experience with some of your friends has not been so positive. What has been some of the responses that you have received from your friends about migraine?
Well, often they don't realize the intensity of the pain. I too have hemiplegic migraines. So when I lose sensation or when I can't speak and I have a tendency to black out, which means I don't drive at night. Because of my own safety and others, sometimes my friends don't understand that I'm not trying to get out of a situation or an event. For my safety and the safety of others, I can't attend. And so sometimes it means I'm not invited to things anymore. And that in itself is painful. Oh, I know you'll probably be in pain, so we just didn't invite you or we didn't include you. And not recognizing how many times I have showed up in pain. Um, I sometimes wish that they understood a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be really challenging with friends, and a lot of times we end up not getting invited places because they aren't happy that we say no all the time, or they don't understand that. For example, with my friends, I ask them, if you're around me, please don't wear anything scented. The responses are not always positive. Aaron, before we get to Erica, because I know you have some interesting thoughts on this, but Aaron, what's been your experience in talking about migraine with your friends?
Well, I I keep a pretty close circle of friends nowadays, just because I've kind of become the unreliable person, even within my family. And it's they don't invite me out for many things, or it might be hey, we're going to this place. They're gonna have some loud music, maybe maybe hey, your favorite band's coming, and it's kind of like, do I go? Yes, I love this band and I love live music, but do I, do I take that chance and somebody's going to have to drive me home, or I'm going to be, you know, getting sick somewhere because of migraine trigger from maybe, a sound, a certain frequency, or just being in, a public area. It just makes it really hard to, I guess, maintain um, a constant relationship, with friends. So yeah, it's really different going from being social to not knowing whether or not you can go out and be social.
So, Erica, what about you? How has migraine impacted your relationships with your friends? How have they responded? And what kind of things have you done to help those relationships?
It's really hard because you're dealing with several different personality types and then your own personality type. I have a very small circle of friends too, just like Aaron, and mainly because I'm so busy taking care of myself that it's hard to maintain those relationships. It feels selfish, but I learned a long time ago that it's not selfish. It's what you have to do to get better, or to find some like mental peace, living with conditions like this and all the comorbidities that we live with. um, but I know one thing that I have done was just try to open up that communication and let them know, I'm going to go, but I might have to leave. Or I'm going to go, but I might have to go lie down for an hour in the back, or you're going to have to sit with me for a little while, or I might have to wear sunglasses inside. I might look weird, but I'm going to try to be there. And if I can't make it at all, it's because I'm in bed and can't move. And they have to get over it, really. There's nothing I can do to help them feel better except take care of myself, because otherwise I'm living in stress, which triggers a migraine, and it's just an endless cycle.
Right. And that's an interesting comment you made, that they just have to get over it. And for some people, that may sound kind of shocking. But the reality is that we live with a disease that is not our fault and that we can't control. Sometimes we can't control at all. And so we're somewhat at the mercy of that disease and the symptoms and the triggers of that. And that impacts us and impacts everybody who's in our life. And if people want to be part of our lives and want to have a friendship or relationship with us, it's kind of a package deal, which is it's tough love, to be honest. And we tend to bear a lot of. I know for myself, I bear a lot of the weight of that guilt. Like, oh, how can I ask someone not to wear perfume? How could I tell someone I'm so sorry I have to cancel? What a horrible person I am. But I'm not a horrible person. It's not my fault that that happens. And so one of the things that I found helps is just to have open communication, to tell them very clearly, I'm so sorry, but I have to ask you before you come to my home, or if I'm coming to your home, please make sure you don't have scented candles around. Please make sure that you're not wearing perfume or cologne. It's not just the women, it's the men too, or that you're using heavily scented cleaning products. And there will be some friends who don't want anything to do with that. And sadly, I've had to let some friendships go because of it. But you also discover who really cares about you. And I think that it also helps you focus on, discovering new friendships with people who really get it. So, Angel, what are some of the things that you've done to help improve your friendships, or some tips that you may have?
One of the things I've done is I've shared the video series that I've been thankful to be a part of. And many people in my circle did not realize the intensity of the pain that I live with every day. And that became a point of conversation where they understood. Angel, you try and do all the things. Now I understand why you can't. And I allowed the video series to speak for me. And I think that these opportunities for where we can share our stories with those that we love and those that we interact with is the way that we do that.
Right. And that's so great to hear. And that's one of the reasons we do this video series, is because sometimes we don't know what to say. or people don't necessarily believe us if we just tell them directly. But when you show a video or you share an article or a meme or a post, it's often really impactful. And so by us, coming out and speaking openly about this disease and the impact on our life, it really does affect other people. What about you, Erin? Or what has helped you, or what are some of the tips and ideas that you have for people who are watching this?
Well, I guess I keep going back to communication. Communication is so important to all your relationships. Whether it be a professional setting or with your friends or your family, let them know. I sometimes I feel the guilt of, I guess, over explaining myself and my condition, or just being too open about it sometimes. But if you don't tell somebody, then they're not going to know. My best friend's wife, just recently I went over to their house, and she's a smoker, and she immediately put out her cigarette as I walked to the door. She's like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you were coming." And I said, I felt guilty because that wasn't my house, and I stepped out on the porch, and but just the, I guess, just knowing that other people remember, is a really good thing, because sometimes you can avoid a trigger if somebody in your circle or your friends or family knows that there are certain things that might trigger a migraine attack for you. So that helps, that helps in the long run, because if you communicate your condition and what triggers you might have to those that are closest to you, it can really help just all around, the relationship and your own personal experience.
Absolutely. And final thoughts from you, Erica, tips, ideas for people.
What's helped me personally navigating relationships is going to therapy. Um, Seeing a therapist, either virtually or in person, has really helped me to see that, as I said earlier, it's not my fault. And they have to deal with it. Like, they have to get over it and things like that. It took a lot of years to get to that point to even think that way, because the guilt was serious. But I'm not saying I don't have that guilt still, because I do. I think it's something we'll deal with for the rest of our lives, especially myself. But I'm able to do that self talk that I didn't before. And that self talk is what helps me get through the relationships that I do have. Um, I have more friends online than I do in person. People I've never met before are probably my closest friends that I have. And to me, that's special. But I have to still cultivate the relationships that I have in everyday life, which is my husband and my children. And so those are the most important relationships to me, and my parents. And thankfully, everybody has been great since becoming chronic. Before I became chronic, it was really difficult between my husband and I. We probably almost got divorced like 3 times. And it was, other issues, but also having a chronic migraine condition. It really does put a damper on everything. And so getting past that, getting through that is really important.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's so sad to hear stories from people about the strain it's put on their friendships, on their marriages, with their children. I had someone close to me say once, "I have no more compassion left for you." And it was devastating. It was right at the time where I was about to be admitted for 3 weeks into a migraine hospital. And so I was very, very sick. And that was the beginning of the end of that relationship. And sadly, there are some relationships that don't make it. And it can be hard to let go of them. It can be hard to let go of a relationship that's toxic. And a lot of the time, we can do things to help the relationship, but sometimes we can't. And it's a matter of letting go and building new relationships with people who get it and who are going to be supportive. I think one of the biggest things that's helped me, and a tip I would give for people, is to try to focus on the things that you can do. So learning to find the things you can do, focus on the things you can do and not on the things you can't, is huge. And then treasuring those memories. I take photographs when you laugh with your spouse or with your children or with your friends, so that you can look back at that and say, wow, that was really cool. So if you or a loved one lives with migraine, we know that your relationships with family and friends are generally impacted, and it can be easy to feel unsupported and end up just isolating. So we encourage you to have open conversations about migraine with the loved ones in your life. to try and focus on the things you can do rather than those which you cannot. To set healthy boundaries in your life to support your health and to connect with others who understand what you are going through. Above all, remember, you are not alone.